the three main categories that I want you to look at related to nutrition are fasting versus fueling, food quality, and macros, micros, and neurotransmitters. So fasting or not eating is just as important as eating. And what I like even better is when you eat can actually offset what you eat. So that's not encouraging you to eat junk food, but what studies have shown through research on intermittent fasting is that if you wanted to eat, say, a junk food diet, or if you wanted to eat some junk food on occasion, the harm that we suffer from blood glucose spikes, for example, related to that junk food, the harm is mediated and reduced if you're actually intermittent fasting. So you can use fasting to both achieve improved cognitive performance, achieve increased longevity, and achieve increased more optimal body composition. I know for women, sometimes there is a little bit of some women have had some challenges, and men too, but more women may have had challenges with having a healthy relationship with food, especially during adolescence. So you can certainly talk with your healthcare provider about whether fasting is right for you, but we did evolve with fasting as part of the natural feast-famine cycle of hunter-gatherer societies. So we are well adapted to fasting if you are ready to introduce that as a tool for your wellness. And fueling is just as important as fasting. So when we think about fueling, we're really thinking about food as having a purpose versus food being food is certainly a form of entertainment. Food is also provides a form of social bonding, right? So those aren't to be ignored, but we really should think about food as fuel first and foremost, and those other things we can layer on top. So when we think about food as fuel, the three things I'd like for you to look at are related to food quality. So the first of those is damaged fats versus undamaged fats. So all fats are not created equal, and the fats that are the product of industrial seed oils actually harm your body, because when your body tries to make cell membranes from these fats, the cell membranes have a less elasticity and less integrity when they are created from these fats that are essentially man-made from seed oils that we would never consume in nature. So I would encourage you to consume fats that occur naturally, such as coconut oil, butter, ghee, lard, etc., and reduce your consumption of fats that occur unnaturally, like hydrogenated fats and seed oils. Next up on food quality is glyphosate, and the impact of glyphosate is so far-reaching that it's even contaminated the water table in places like California, where it has been sprayed on so many crops for so long. So even people who are buying organic produce can be at risk of glyphosate exposure depending on irrigation practices that are used. But I would encourage you, to the extent that you can afford it and that it's right for you, I would encourage you to consume organic produce to reduce your glyphosate consumption. Glyphosate essentially cracks open the tight junctions in your gut, creating those tight junctions normally create a sealed barrier that prevent things from entering your bloodstream that are harmful to you. And the break in those tight junctions in your gut actually allow things to enter your bloodstream that are harmful. So I would encourage you to consume a low glyphosate diet. And the last one is sugar, which I certainly have had my fair share of throughout my life, but now have direct experience with how little it does for me and how good I feel without sugar. So it certainly took a while to wean myself off sugar, but to the extent that you can reduce your added sugar consumption, you will directly improve and increase your health. It really is true that we are what we eat. And lastly, when it comes to nutrition, I'll invite you to look at macro and micronutrients. So in coaching clients for performance, what we have found is that using protein in the morning is extremely satiating and also good for dopamine production. In other words, it supports the gut's production of dopamine, which is the neurotransmitter that's related to motivation and drive. So you can use protein in the morning for motivation, and you can use carbohydrates in the evening for relaxation. They actually promote relaxation because they promote the production of serotonin. So my experience in the past is when I used to eat carbohydrates in the morning, it would make me ravenously hungry very quickly, so hungry that I would eat my lunch for snack, at say 10 a.m. rather than making it to lunchtime. And so what I found and clients have had great success with is using protein for breakfast, protein and fat in the morning for breakfast, with carbohydrates in the afternoon or evening, and adding as many colorful vegetables, greens, and herbs to your diet for their antioxidant and anti-stress benefits. So moving to step number 4, movement, no pun intended. So we didn't evolve to be the stationary creatures that we are today. You could actually kind of compare us to sloths in the workplace, because so many of us spend so many hours per day in a stationary position, maybe even out of the office. Maybe you're a truck driver and you're in the same position all day, or maybe you're in the office and you're in the same position all day. And you can essentially think of movement as an essential nutrient that we need on a daily basis. And so that comes in 3 forms. The first that I would prioritize is flexibility, because as we sit in the same position or as we stand in the same positions all day long, we are decreasing our flexibility. And then the consequence is it hurts to move into new positions. And so we are putting ourselves in a double bind, if you will, because we don't want to stretch or we don't want to make these moves that are now painful for us because we've been so sedentary. So I would encourage you to incorporate movement into your day, and it doesn't have to be jumping jacks. It could be just simple squats, simple stretches that literally take nearly no time to do. So they would take no time away from the office or your workspace, but maintain a degree of humanity and human movement that most people are lacking. So movement is a nutrient. And it's important because it keeps your brain connected to your body and your body connected to your brain. So there are neural pathways of movement that we simply lose if we don't practice them, right? So it's just like if you learn a language as a teenager and don't practice, then you get rusty and lose that facility or instrument or whatever skill. So we could really think of flexibility and movement as a skill that needs to be maintained versus something that you do once in a while. So next is strength training, which I would say is some of the cheapest anti-aging medicine that you can't buy, right? You can't buy it because you can't pay anyone to go lift weights for you. But you can do body weight training, you can do strength training, and the benefits are tremendous, especially if you are over the age of 30 or 35 when sarcopenia begins to set in, right? So we know that we begin to lose muscle as we age, and it's not even, it's not like it starts when you're 60, it starts when you're in your mid 30s. And so none of us want to lose muscle, especially because muscle burns calories at rest. So maintaining body muscle actually helps us maintain a healthy metabolism, and it helps you look good naked. Lastly, we have conditioning. So aerobic exercise provides benefits everywhere from heart health to brain health, and it doesn't have to be you running a marathon or a 5K or whatever. It literally could be you walking after dinner, walking after lunch, or taking the stairs when you're at the office. So if we're trying to get more movement into our day, you might even be able to add a degree of aerobic conditioning without even having to, quote, do exercise, right? Like simply taking the stairs is going to provide you with a degree of aerobic conditioning that is easy, low effort, and that you wouldn't get otherwise, right? If you're taking the elevator, for example. And no one wants to be the person who gets winded taking the stairs. So I would encourage you to go ahead and start taking the stairs to improve that conditioning right now.